It's the Bulls Podcast, episode 35.
Hey, Chicago Bulls fans! It's time for your Bulls Podcast. Here are your hosts, Marcus Couch and Wyse Black.
Welcome to the Bulls Podcast, coming to you from bullspodcast.com. This is where we bring you the latest news, reviews, rants, rumors, and opinions on the players, coaches, and front office of the Chicago Bulls. My name is Marcus Couch, and with me is my co-host, Mr. Wyse Black.
Man, it's hard for me to even do my usual greeting right now, y'all. Like, I'm legit so ticked, but anyway, yo. What's up? What's good with all my Bull lifers out there, man? I had to do it just for y'all, boy. I gotta tell you, I'm not happy about this lottery crap, but whatever, right? Let's talk some ball.
All right, and we've chosen our most frequent guest to drown our sorrows with. It's friend of the show, Mr. Kenyatta Wright. He is the columnist for hypefresh.co and administrator of the Bullseye Facebook group. Kenyatta, welcome to the show once again.
Episode 35. What a pleasure to be a part of this. I'm unhappy with the draft as well, just as well as my boy Wyse Black is. Let's get this started. I want to voice my opinion on the displeasure we have with this draft. Let's go.
Okay, we are going to talk about the NBA Lottery results in a roundtable fashion, and I've got a quick essay on the state of the Bulls fan right now. We'll be back right after this quick timeout.
Bulls fans, remember to follow the show on social media at Bulls Podcast and at bullspodcast.com.
The seventh pick belongs to the Chicago Bulls.
Wow. So we know where Chicago will be drafting now.
Whew. All right, folks, we have our NBA lottery breakdown. In a somehow unrealistic turn of events, the Chicago Bulls fell 3 slots in the NBA draft lottery, and we will receive the 7th pick in the draft for the 3rd year in a row. John Paxson actually did not need to be talked off the ledge Tuesday night. There was no cursing from the Bulls vice president of basketball operations, no screams of conspiracy, not even an ounce of panic. Instead, Paxson was very calm just minutes after the results, in which the Bulls fell to number 7 after finishing with the league's 4th worst record. He said, first of all, it's not catastrophic. It starts with what the league did last year in changing the odds. You look at what happened Tuesday. 7, 8, and 11 jumped into the top 4 slots, and New York, who had the worst record, ended up 3rd. I think the league is probably pleased with why they went with this route and how it turned out. But for us, you always hope you get lucky. But again, it wasn't our turn to get lucky. I'm very convinced we'll get another really good player at 7. We'll do our work. We're going to try, and we're going to find that guy that does what we like. So it's really surprising, actually, to see the Bulls have an open mind with this pick, knowing that they could actually take this number 7 pick and trade it for a proven player, specifically at point guard. In the past, the Bulls have been very confident in their scouting, and we've actually seen the results from that. Their draft picks are generally spot on, with the exception of a couple of guys. That Marcus Teague pick still haunts me. But in the past, their scouting has been dead on. The Sun-Times reported last month that one scenario the Bulls would explore and had dialogue with during the season involves Lakers point guard Lonzo Ball. The Lakers were one of the big winners in the lottery, moving up to number 4, actually our slot. But Murray State point guard Ja Morant, expected to be picked 2nd, probably won't be around to make Ball expendable. Giving the Lakers number 4 and number 7, however, does give them some options, whether it's packaging for a trade or building with youth around LeBron James. John Paxson wasn't ruling out any scenarios. Again, there may be a lot on the board that we are just not realizing. There may be some other teams besides the Lakers that have a guy that's maybe got 1 year left in his contract who's just about to get a max deal or something like that. And we might be able to snatch him up for that particular pick. I'm looking right at you, Clippers. That might be happening. So it's not what the Bulls wanted to hear, considering the hosts of this show and everybody else that's a Bulls fan, considering their dreams of Zion Williamson and the number 1 pick were crushed so quickly. So now a trade or free agency is basically the only path for a change at point guard, especially if Darius Garland continues to rise in stock. So either way, the conversation about what to do with this consolation prize of pick number 7 will be a continual debate for Bulls fans from now until draft day on June 20th. Wyse, let's start with you, my man. What are you feeling? I saw your Twitter post where you basically were crying in your beer, sitting on your sofa there. What's going on in your mind right now, buddy?
You said that it's going to be a continual conversation all the way up until June 20th. It sure as hell will. Because first of all, listen, I don't want to get a point guard just for the sake of getting one to fill a position. First and foremost, like Paxson said, they better do their due diligence as far as scouting and considering all options before just making some desperate move to fill a role, because I don't want a mediocre prospect. And listen, I don't necessarily want to say any names because you never know how a guy will turn out once they get to the league, meaning if they choose to go the route of a Kobe White, although I wouldn't like that, but I'll just leave that there. But also, I don't want a guy in Lonzo Ball specifically who is really overrated due to the spectacular marketing on the part of his father. Yes, he is a tall guard that plays nice defense with nice passing instincts, but that's it as far as I see. I don't see anything else that stands out about Lonzo on the positive end of things. Otherwise, he's shooting 50% from the free throw line. Horrible. 32% from deep, which is right on par with Chris Dunn, who we all get on about his lack of shooting ability. 40% from the field this year, which is a bit better than the horrible 36% he shot in his rookie season. And while we wouldn't necessarily need him to, I hate the fact that he lacks a takeover mentality. You know, or maybe that's just because he doesn't have the ability to, looking at these numbers. But, man, I need you to have that if I'm going to trade my top 10 pick for you. And not to mention, I can't forget to mention this, but this dude legit can't stay on the court. His first year, he missed 30 games in the regular season. And his second year, which was this year, he missed 35 games. If you ask me, it would just be idiotic based on what Lonzo has already shown us to trade our 7th pick for him. Hell, I'd rather this Kobe White dude if Garland isn't there, because I don't see how he could be much worse than Lonzo. So I say if Garland isn't there at 7 and we can't pull off a trade to get a veteran like Jrue Holiday or Malcolm Brogdon, I say we just hope and pray that we continue to strike gold with this lucky number 7 pick.
I hear you. Kenyatta, what you got about the draft here?
The 7th pick, I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. I really don't want the pick. I feel like if we're going to settle for a mediocre 7th pick, then why don't we just keep Chris Dunn? You know, right. That was the idea, to upgrade from what he's been giving us. And I'd rather stick with Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn knows the system. If we bring in another point guard that's a rookie, we're going to have to train them. They're going to have to get used to our system. Chris Dunn already knows our system. But all in all, I was really disappointed with this draft. And I do think there is some conspiracy. So people can laugh on. But there was no way in hell that the Lakers should, or the Pelicans should have been in the 1st and 4th draft selections. The teams that they drafted over had way worse records. And, you know, doing my article for Blue Line Sports, I took down some of the records. The Suns, who had a record of 19-63. The Cleveland Cavaliers also had a record of 19-63. The Atlanta Hawks also had a record of 29-53. And the Pelicans had a record of 33-49. The Lakers had a record of 37-45, or around that. But all in all, like what you see I'm trying to say and make a case is that these two teams that got the 1st and 4th pick had a better record than all of these teams that they leapfrogged. So I don't know how Adam Silver is conducting this draft lottery, but it's very inaccurate to have these two teams that were, one of them, two seeds away from making the playoffs to get a top 4 pick. It's just mind-boggling to me.
Well, to address that, Kenyatta, I mean, I get the whole draft lottery makeup now. It was really implemented so teams could stop trying to tank. That was the whole purpose of that. So I didn't necessarily trip off of the draft lottery and how that whole thing turned out. I can't lie, I actually kind of like it because it should deter teams away from this whole draft or not drafting, but this tanking mentality. And
But you
I think
understand,
that was the purpose of it.
but you understand why it's that the New York Knicks also participated in this tanking tactic, and they got the number 3 overall pick. So,
Yeah, but they didn't get the number 1 like they wanted to.
I'd rather have number 3 than 7th.
Of course you would, but then again, New York was the worst team in the league, so they tried to get the number 1 pick. That's why I don't think it's rigged necessarily, or at least not this year. I don't think it was rigged because who the hell cares about New Orleans? Why would they give New Orleans the number 1 pick? And I highly doubt that they're going to trade it, to LA to try and get AD up over there or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
I guarantee that's what's going to happen.
Well, I think the premise based on that New Orleans setup in terms of LA was LA would trade the 4th pick and something else to New Orleans. Yeah. Right. And then New Orleans would be all right because they'd have Zion,
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
So let me bring up something to you guys just to refresh our palates, so to speak, on what place a particular draft pick is. Chris Dunn was actually drafted 5th in the 2016 NBA draft. Mm-hmm. Zach LaVine was the 13th pick by Minnesota the year he was drafted. Otto Porter, Otto Porter Jr. actually drafted 3rd in the 2013 NBA draft. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we're not stacked with some guys that can get the job done. Right. And then you got Lauri Markkanen, you got Wendell Carter Jr., both of them 7s.
2 7s. Yeah.
So we're not that bad. We're not Phoenix here. We're not the Knicks who've got nothing. We got a strong core that's going to do some damage next year.
And Marcus, that guy I was trying to bring up to you before we got on the air is Jarrett Culver.
Yeah, Jarrett Culver.
No, and Marcus, you're definitely right. I'm not saying that we're bad. I'm just saying I hope that we make the right move with this number 7 pick. That's really all it is, because to tell you the truth, I think that we have one huge gaping hole at the point guard position, and I just hope that they make the right move. Instead of just picking a point guard just for the sake of picking one, if Garland is gone, I don't want them to just pick Kobe White just because he's the next best point guard on the board if they don't think that he's their guy. If they don't think that he's the next best player. I would rather them go with a Cam Reddish over Kobe White. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's nothing to say that we can't pick the best guy that's on the board and then throw him into the second unit. I don't expect any starters to come from this pick whatsoever. We might get shocked. We might find some stud that plays in Summer League this year and just tears it up. Right? Mm-hmm. Who's pissed that he went number 7, thought he should have been in the top 3. There might be that guy in the weeds that we're just not looking at right now.
Well, crazier things have happened in the draft. Look where Michael Porter Jr. ended up with the Nuggets. So it's all about fulfilling a need. These teams that are in the draft that are picking these potential draftees, it's all about fulfilling a need. They're only going to take what they feel fits their system, and maybe because of that, one of the players that we desire drops in our lap. But I'm with Wyse. I'm not just going to use this 7th pick just to pick the next best player possible. He has to fit our system. He has to be a player that can help us win now. And I'm with Wyse totally on that.
And the Bulls have a pretty big threshold in terms of what kind of character they want out of a guy. They're famous for picking guys that are pretty high character, and you don't get a lot of controversy out of the people that are playing for the Bulls like you would in other teams. I'll tell you, living here in LA, I hear as much about what the players are doing, partying in the after, game parties and all that, as much as anything else. I'm not hearing that in Chicago.
True enough.
Especially not with Jim Boylan as coach now. If that was going on, it ain't no more.
Yeah. So, I think we've gotten it all off our chest here in terms of how we feel. I think one of the things I want to do is put a reaction video together of everybody that posted YouTube stuff and Twitter and all that. And Wyse, I'll lead off with yours if you don't mind. But everybody was pissed. Everybody was disappointed, and rightfully so, because we had this buildup. I even did a countdown all the time on this show in terms of when the draft lottery was. We were all had that marked on our calendar, all knew that we'd be home sitting in front of the TV trying to figure out what it is that we were going to get. I will say this, Horace Grant should be barred from any future draft. But, sorry,
bad luck charm, huh?
Yeah, why not Benny the Bull? Why not have the mascots in there?
Wow.
Right? Freaking out, doing backflips.
Who do we have represent us in 08? Who did that? Can anybody answer that?
It was Jimmy Butler. I don't know. No.
I think it was Michael Reinsdorf, the son.
All right, bring him back. He needs to do it again. Because we got lucky that year. So I'd rather him. Definitely over Horace Grant. Sorry, Horace.
And I'll say this. Speaking of that number one pick, I hear more and more that Derrick Rose is moving his camp back to Chicago. So I don't know what that means, but it might mean that we get we dodge a bullet in terms of wasting our pick on a point guard that's sort of mediocre that probably wouldn't start anyway.
Well, listen, now based on the state of the Bulls and based on the fact that we're not going to get the point guard that we want in the draft, and based on that we already established long ago all year that Chris Dunn is not good enough to be a starting point guard, I would more than welcome Derrick Rose to start for us.
Well, that's something that we're going to have to talk about as the summer wears on, and that's pretty much the fuel that we're going to have to live on.
I think for the next few months. With you. I agree, Kenyatta. I was thinking about it, but I agree.
Yeah.
Given our situation right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, man. And you know, Wyse, we're going to come up with some stuff in the next coming shows in terms of what guys we think free agent wise we can bring in here and afford and all the rest of it. So I'm not too ashamed of how the whole thing went down. At least we're still in the top 10. We could have done a lot worse. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the state of the Bulls fan right after this. Hey, most of you guys are getting the show on Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes, but if you don't have the Bulls Podcast on your sub list yet, just go to bullspodcast.com/Apple, and it will forward you right to our iTunes listing. If you are subscribed, we would appreciate a review since it does help out with the ratings. You can give us a 5-star, 4-star, or even 1 star. But hey, man, be honest. Tell us what you like, what you don't like about the show, and help bring new listeners to the Bulls Podcast. Again, that link is bullspodcast.com/Apple to get the show on iTunes. All right, we're back, and it's the state of the Bulls fan. Let's face it, it's really tough to be a Bulls fan these days. Coming off a horrible 20-win season, the Chicago Bulls could not cash in with all the efforts of the tanking that we had to endure all year long. Television viewing and game attendance plummeted over the course of the season. If you're watching at home, the empty seats were quite noticeable on your television screen. Even the sound of the crowd was very different from what we're all used to in watching Bulls games. There was a time very recently where the UC crowd would be very vocal in encouraging the Bulls team and expressing their displeasure over a bad call. These names seem to be a little bit absent in current times. Now, with winning the 7th overall pick of the draft, fans feel cheated by the league. We've had that same 7th pick for 3 years now. 2 years ago, we were blessed with Larry Markkanen at pick 7, combined with Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn in exchange for Jimmy Butler, probably the smartest Garpax move ever made. Last year, we were blessed yet again with Wendell Carter Jr. at number 7, so it seems that number 7 was a good pick the last 2 years, but not good enough this year? Well, that may not be the case in reality. There's some outstanding diamonds in the rough that will be available with the number 7 draft pick. While we don't have a full scouting report on who we can get, there's a safe bet in predicting that someone that's not the current draft top 5 will potentially have a better career than Zion, Ja, or Barrett might have. That's just the straight up fact. What happens if Zion goes down with some sort of an ACL or injury or Achilles injury or something like that is pretty prominent with somebody his size? We're just going to have to find out. Luckily, the draft lottery is not a luck as a strategy for winning type of situation. It's just like playing the Mega Millions or the Powerball. It's a lot of lofty dreaming before that inevitable moment of disappointment that you get when you don't win. So while it's hard to be a Bulls fan right now, we all know that the young core that we have on this team will get better. They will put some winning streaks together and be back in the playoffs probably sooner than we all think. We can all howl at the moon and curse at Garpax for everything they've done to potentially derail this franchise. But overall, they've put together a pretty good team with a bright future for many years to come. So let's all just take a slow, deep breath and enjoy this moment. Enjoy the fact that from this point forward, the Bulls are in it to win it, and we're not going to tank. No game is going to be played to lose. Our guys will be allowed to play to win. Wyse, what do you think of the state of the Bulls fan right now?
So I'm with you for the most part in terms of Garpax finding diamonds in the rough, with their recent picks and mainly, in the top 10 because, that McDermott pick at 11 back in 2014 was a complete disaster, especially looking at Gary Harris and Nurkic, who was balling for Portland before going down with that nasty leg injury. And like you mentioned earlier, I can't forget about the Marcus Teague selection. And look, he isn't even in the league at this point. And although it was just, I believe, late 20s, like it was, I think, the 29th pick. But what makes so many of us angry is because it was reported that Thibs told them to take Draymond Green over him. So I just say that to say, based on history, we may be in an okay spot because they're drafting in the top 10 as opposed to outside of it. So that's where I'm going to place my hopes. I just don't want them to try and get too smart for their own good and trade this pick for Lonzo Ball, because I can truly see them considering something like that too. But I'd much rather them do what they did last year and go for who they think is the best player available and try to pull something off within free agency or a trade to try and address that point position. So my state as a Bulls fan right now is I'm going to keep my cool until they give me a reason not to. We have a near all-star in Zach LaVine, a guy with all-star potential in Laurie, a very nice complementary piece in Otto, and an anchored defensive player who can also pull off some tricks on the other side of the ball too in Wendell Carter Jr. So they just need to be smart with their next move, and I'm cool.
And Kenyatta, what do you think as well? And by the way, guys, the one thing that we forgot about, we don't have a center.
Oh, yeah.
We don't, yeah. I mentioned that before in some of our later episodes or our older episodes that I think they need to address that in the draft with that second pick. But
well, I'm telling you now, Robin Lopez is doing cartwheels in his bedroom.
Yeah.
What I think is that, before we started tanking, it was like I just feel like Garpax got to start going back to work, because before we started tanking, we considered them the best at drafting. And I feel like our front office got kind of lazy and wanted us to tank so we get the best possible pick. And if you think about it, any front office can draft with the top 3 picks and pick the best guy. But it seems to me when we had the highest picks, we picked the best guys when we had the lower picks. Like when we draft Jimmy Butler at number 30 in the first round. Jimmy Butler, now look at the player he's become. He's one of the biggest stars in the NBA right now. Derrick Rose with a record of 33 and 49. We struggled that year, but our Bulls played really, really hard that year. Tried to be a playoff team, but fell short. We drafted Derrick Rose. Taj Gibson, we drafted with number 16 overall selection in the first round. So we have some decent picks when we tried to win. So maybe that is the league's message, that you have to actually go out there and play with effort and get rewarded. But I don't see any reason possible. That the only thing that's making me feel bad about this is there's no way that the Lakers should have got a 4th overall pick. It's no way. But
they'll find a way to blow it. Luol Deng is another guy. Luol Deng is a guy that wasn't a top draft pick that we got, and he turned out just fine, man.
You see, Marcus? Yeah. So that should be our approach, man. All in all, going back to your point earlier, I think you're right. I think we got some guys in here like Otto Porter, Zach LaVine, and Lauri Markkanen, and that. We got something to start with. I just wanted us to fulfill the need at point guard. But, it's a lot of point guards in this league. It'll be a lot of free agents. It's just Garpax just going to have to go to work and stop being lazy. And, Maybe that's what we need them to do, get more serious.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we got some money to play with this year. That's the difference. Is we got some cash. We can afford to get a good guy in here, a decent center. I mean, God, as weird as it sounds, I wouldn't mind if they used that number 7 pick and drafted Bull, Manute Bull's kid.
Whew.
That guy, he's center size. He's a toothpick though, man. He's thin. He had to bulk up. But man, that dude can shoot.
He can. He just scares me a little bit. 7'3" dude, super bony, and he already got a foot injury, which big guys are known to have. He just scares me a little bit, but he can ball.
He fits the MO of this current NBA offense because you don't have to be big. All these centers nowadays shoot and play on the perimeter anyway, so why does he have to get an NBA body?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, and there's a lot of centers out there too. I mean, I hope this, I pray this actually. If we do get rid of that number 7 pick and trade it away for somebody has to eat Felicio. I'm sorry. They got to eat Felicio. We need that $8 million.
I don't know how I even forgot about that, but that's legit. If we trade that pick, Felicio got to be packaged with it.
It'd be crazy how much you talk about Felicio. It'd be crazy if he goes somewhere and drop 20 and 10. I'm gonna be like, oh my God, Marcus.
That's
impossible. It would be crazy because that ain't happening.
Sorry.
I mean, how expensive are steroids in Brazil? Probably not that much when you're making $8 million, right?
You need to stop, brother.
Steroids
boy needs to get on
him.
He needs to get on a cycle, man. Come on.
He'll just lead the league in fouls. That's it.
I'm with you though, man. Some nights he out there, he don't look like he don't even know what he's doing or can't comprehend the play, man. It's bad. Looks bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, look, I think that we're all in a happy place in terms of, it was a bummer not getting our 7th pick, but it's decent, man. I mean, I'm not going to complain, man. I'm not going to say, hey, we can't get it. Go ahead, Wyse.
Okay. I won't necessarily say that I'm in a happy place because how I look at it is when we traded Jimmy, that was obviously the start of the rebuild. So I didn't expect us to be back in playoff contention, let alone championship contention in just 2 or 3 years, realistically. But now seeing that we're a few years into this and seeing this how the owners are telling us whether we like it or not, we're stuck with guard packs. Look, boy, they better give us something because now it's time to make it happen with this team. We ain't like Orlando, Phoenix, or one of those small market teams that will just sit back and let this go on for nearly a decade. They got to come through or they can expect more poor rating percentages, and that'll start hurting their pockets, and I know that they don't want those problems. So that's
our pockets too. Damn, exactly. We need some sponsors, man. Listen. I want you guys to rewind us. Let's rewind ourselves 34 episodes ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. We were talking about Wendell Carter Jr., but we were also talking about, is Fred Hoiberg going to get it together, and Jabari Parker being able to perform, and Bobby Portis potentially getting a max deal or somewhere along that line. Okay.
Yep.
We don't have any of those 3 problems right now. We don't have Jabari Parker's extra $20 million on the books right now. We don't have Bobby Portis at the end of this year trying to get $10, $15, $20 million, basically sinking our franchise. We don't have Fred Hoiberg to mess it all up either with this passive, run and gun offense that never materialized for us. So
I'll tell you who we do have. We still have Wendell Carter Jr. And I'm going to tell you something right now. If he was on top of his game right now, we could use him at center. He needs to come through this season coming up.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to happen. We just need somebody else. Maybe Joakim Noah will come on a flyer for, $2 million to come back and finish his career out here. Maybe. You never know.
It's time for Wendell Carter Jr. to man up. He can't be looking for nobody else to make him into a good player. He got to go out there and want it, man. He's a player. He has it in him to be a starting center in this league. He has to stop being nervous and go out there and get it, man. This is crunch time. Same way how we saying the guard packs got to get it together. Our players got to go out there and want it, man. They got to go out there and want it.
And true. But Marcus, I get what you're saying definitely as far as the things that you just mentioned about Jabari, Bobby, Hoiberg and all that. I'm just saying that they don't necessarily get a pass. While they have made good moves, I think that us here in Chicago should still keep the pressure on this front office, just because, like I said in the episode before, like I think that they're a bit arrogant and they just kind of do whatever they want. Like when they have their mind set on something, they do that and they don't care about anything else. And it seems like they don't even search for anything else, like this Boylan hire. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought that they didn't even go out and scout any other coaches. They didn't look at any other coaches at all. That's what it looked like happened. And for that reason, that's the reason I'm saying, like, if y'all are gonna, just take on this idea that it's whatever y'all say and that's what y'all gonna stick to y'all guns regardless of what the fan base has to say or what seems like the more rational thing to do. They better deliver with it, is all I'm saying. They better be right.
Yeah, I hear you. One move that we didn't mention yet in this show is that we actually have a new assistant coach for the Bulls now. That's Chris Fleming. Yeah. Chris Fleming just got hired, and they gave him a good contract. He actually did well. He coached a German national team. He did some work with the Denver Nuggets and most recently with the Brooklyn Nets. And those are both two franchises that really turned it around.
And he coming from a program of the Brooklyn Nets, the team that I praised so much in that episode 24.
Yeah. So, I gotta say, I think that things are going to turn a lot quicker than what we imagine they will. And look, luck is not a strategy. Paxson said that very well yesterday. And we should be thinking the same thing. Like, I don't, obviously we wanted to get the number 1 or number 2 pick. There are 30 teams that wanted to get those two guys on their roster. That's a given. But we don't have them, and that's all right, man. We bleed Bulls red. We're going to be a Bulls fan for life, and that's the way it is.
I got a question for you, Marcus. When you read that statement from John Paxson yesterday, how did you feel? Because for me, it was refreshing.
Yeah. I think he got out in front of it rather than just saying, I don't get the people that said fire Gar Pax. Why? Because a ping pong ball bounced weird?
It's not
That's not their fault.
Not their fault at all. Nope.
Yeah, no, not because of that. Not at all.
I mean, they got us.
I'm sorry.
They got us in a position with a percentage that was livable, 12%, right? Yeah. So you never know. You never know where that would have ended if we would have tried to win and get further down and, get the 6th or 7th or somewhere. Things might have worked out differently, but it is what it is. And now we can just put our foot on the gas and try and go for it the way we all want to.
But I really want you guys to think about this. How we got the number 1 pick or in the top 2. Do you think our front office would have been having this drive to get the best moves done? Do you think they would have that personality?
Nah, if we got John Morant, they would have just brought in some scrub to come in with this, as a center or something like that. We probably wouldn't have signed, some of our other guys like Archie Diacono or, some of the other dudes. Like, I don't know, is Walt Lemon going to get a shot at the point? I mean, hopefully. Maybe they want to bring him in on the bench. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
Better option than Chris Dunn.
Why not? So, all in all, man, I think the state of the Bulls fan is obviously we're a little upset. We're a little dismayed. We're a little discombobulated in terms of getting set back on our heels of losing the position in the draft. But overall, we're still fans. We're still always going to be fans, and nothing's going to deter that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So we are going to take one last quick break and wrap it all up right after this. Hey, everybody, remember, we are a new show, and we do need your support in social media. We made it really simple to find us with some special redirect links. You can find us at Bulls Podcast on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, and go to bullspodcast.com/Facebook to get tied into our Facebook group. And if you'd like to subscribe to the show, we are on Apple Podcasts at bullspodcast.com/Apple, on Stitcher, bullspodcast.com/Stitcher, and on Spotify at bullspodcast.com/Spotify. And you can follow Kenyatta Wright on Twitter at KennyWright31. You can find him on Hype Fresh and his Facebook group called Bullseye. I've got links to everything there in the show notes at bullspodcast.com. Wyse, you can follow on Twitter and Instagram at radical_creator and search for his YouTube channel, Wyse Black. You can find me on Twitter at Marcus Couch, on Instagram at Marcus Couch. Everything show related you can find at Bulls Podcast. Make sure you're connected to us everywhere we are. Remember, you can check out our compilation website where I tell you there's been a lot of cool podcasts by a lot of cool people, especially throughout this draft. You can find all those over at bulls.fm. If you can't remember any of these, you can check out our show notes for this show and all the other shows over at bullspodcast.com. And Wyse, I want to say congratulations, my man. You just got engaged, didn't you?
Oh, man.
I did. It's definitely, it feels amazing. So,
Congrats, brother. Congrats.
I appreciate it.
Yep,
Sure.
no problem.
So, Wyse, why don't you continue on with some of your closing thoughts for the episode?
Yeah, you know what, people? Hey, it's just the beginning. Bulls Nation, you know, I do believe that we're on an upward trajectory right now, and like I said earlier, I'm going to keep my optimism until further notice. But as always, it was a pleasure having my man Kenyatta on the pod. You know, he always does a great job of talking Bulls with us. But hey, people, until further notice, peace and love.
All right, and Kenyatta, closing thoughts from you this episode.
It was a pleasure doing the show again with my boy Wyse and my boy Marcus. You guys can also catch me at KWBluelinesports.blogspot.com. I'm also doing my work over there now. You know, we're going to get through this draft, y'all. We're going to get through this draft lottery bug, man. We're going to get through this, man. We have some good pieces. You know, it's going to get better, man. I'm just going to be optimistic. But, you know, as far as like us doing this show for the fans, we just hope that you guys enjoyed it. We hope that you stick with us every show. It's going to get better and better and better. We're doing this for you guys, for you listeners. We're not doing this for us. We're really doing this for you guys, the Bulls fans. But that's what it's all about. Be here for episode 36.
All right, and speaking of 36, we are just 36 days away from the NBA draft. That is June 20th, 2019. And boy, are the sparks going to fly on that day. Until next time, thanks for listening, everybody. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Hey, Bulls fans! This is your Bulls championship announcer, Ray Clay, saying, so long, everybody. Go Bulls!